Welcome back to the Virginia School of Traditional Arts. I got a new sculpture project today, and it's sort of a traditional art. It's we're gonna replicate this high heel shoe. This is for Roanoke, Virginia. It's the larger than life exhibition, and you know, cobblers were a traditional art, so we're gonna give it a shot, but we're gonna make ours out of steel. So I'm going to show you what I've got to this point, and we'll take you along in the process as we finish it up here. This was my drawing that I submitted for this exhibition, and it has dimensions on it 5 foot wide and 6 foot tall. Well, at that point I did not have a high heel shoe at all to measure, and I guess I didn't realize most shoes, most normal size feet shoes, are much longer than they are tall. So anyhow, we'll adjust our dimensions here. We're gonna make our high heel pretty high, so we can try to stretch up and get almost that 6 foot measurement. What I've done first is I've cut out our oval, and I've created a template of the inside of the bottom of the shoe. Alright, had to get you back a ways. Now this was my first attempt, and once I had it, I started playing with it to kind of see how tall it was going to be, and quickly realized it was not going to be tall enough, not even close. This is only coming up, now that would be a section or 2 sections on top of this, but still at that, it's only going to be about 4 foot tall. So, but this is the way I did it. I drew the center line of the shoe, and then I measured down through it. Now I had a small piece of paper, which I can't find right now, that actually fit into the shoe. I'd worked it out and got it to where it would actually lay down inside the shoe. And I'll be honest with you, if I had it to do again, I'd go to the drugstore and I would get a pair of insoles that would fit in this shoe and just use it to measure off of, because it took me right good time to do that little piece of paper so that I could get the measurements for these bigger ones. So anyhow, that's what I had done. I had a little piece of paper that was this shape, the shoe shape, that would fit down in there really good. And then I drew a center line down it, the little piece of paper, and I measured off the center line over. I figured out where I wanted the widest points basically, and then where the narrowest points were, and I was able to utilize my measurements from the small piece of paper that fit in the shoe and come up with this template. And the way I did that, I cheated and I used a ratio calculator on the computer. And my shoe's measurement was from tip to the very back here was about 10 and a quarter inches, and I wanted the one I actually ended up with to be 75 inches long. So that's what I put in the ratio calculator, and then each one of the other dimensions, you put it in there, and then you hit calculate, and it would tell you what that ratio was. So if it was, you know, 10 and a quarter inches, it would say 75 inches long. So that's basically how it works. But the computer's handy. But I made this small one first, and it did not work out as good as I was hoping. I mean, it's a perfect template, but it's just not the right size. So I had to get rid of that one, and I made a bigger one. So I've done this a couple of times. I made a bigger one, same idea. I just changed the ratio, changed my length, and so that's how I got this template. From this paper template, I drew on a piece of plywood, thin plywood, Luan, I guess is what they call this. And I cut it out on Luan. The reason I did this is if you're good with your plasma cutter and you can follow a line, you don't have to do this step, but I'm not any good. I can't follow a line. I'm too shaky, so I'm always shaking around. So if I want something to be a particular shape, I'll cut it out of the Luan, and I'll sand the edges up good, and I can get a nice smooth line that way, or as smooth as I can achieve with the plasma cutter. I don't have it a computerized one. Computerized one would be nice. However, I have no idea how you would have developed this type of a shape in the computerized version. As a challenge, as a difficulty, this is probably one of the most difficult items I've tried to make. Usually I make flowers and butterflies and different things. And, you know, everybody's seen a flower, but nobody measures one. And if it's a little bit off here, a little bit off there, as long as it looks like a flower, it's good. But this particular shoe, I wanted it to be pretty close. I wanted it to look like a high heel shoe, pretty tight. So anyhow, I made these two templates, and if my board would have been long enough, I would have made it together, but it wasn't, so I had to make it two different pieces. At this piece, that's the most of it. That was as long a piece of metal as I had, and then I cut out the very tippy toe part out of another piece, and we're going to weld that on. And I've taken this afternoon and cleaned the mill scale off of, this will be the top. And that's important if you're going to make a particular right or left shoe. This one's the right hand shoe, and that's what I drew in the picture, was the right hand shoe. If you're going to make a particular shoe, you'd have to flip this over to make the left-handed side, or if you're going to make a set of shoes, so keep that in mind. But I was talking about the difficulty. There's nothing square or flat on a shoe, and pretty much any shoe. This high heel has got more curves than most, but any shoe has no flat, square, 90-degree angles like, you know, we're used to seeing when you build things. But it's taken right much measurement and right much fiddling to get it to this point. And the piece that it's laying on is the oval for the bottom. And I did the same thing, made a template out of a piece of the Luan, which is right here. I made this template out of the Luan, and that's what I come up with the oval base with. And again, if you're good at following a line, you don't have to do this. You can just draw it and follow the line. But I'm not very good at that. So. And this is a common size. This is 5 foot. This will be something I'll use again in the future. So I don't mind making the templates. Now the one for the shoe, probably not going to make another shoe, but they're big pieces, so I can save them and cut them into smaller sections when I need it. The other thing is, this particular shoe has a 4-inch heel, and that's just, I ordered this special so I could measure it. It has a 4-inch heel, and to get my 6 feet with this thing up and this approaching 6 feet here, or 6 feet here even with it leaning up, I'm going to have to make it a 6-inch heel. And also that will shorten this in the length. As you lift it up, it shortens the length, and that will help on my 5 foot dimension here, because it's a little bit too long if I make it a 4-inch equivalent heel. It'll be a little bit too long and stick off my base. So I'm going to make it a 6-inch equivalent heel, and I did some math on that. Where's my math on that? My ugly sketches. 6 inches on my ratio calculator runs into about 45 inches tall. So about 45-inch tall heel. And then you put this on top of that, and then these two, I'm going to call these two sections, this one and then this one, on top of that. So you're up another, I think total it was 68 inches up to the top of this. Here's my little pattern that actually fit inside the shoe. I was mentioning this the last time I filmed, and I finally found it. And I have it bent right here And that's the angle that I want for this, for the bend. It, like I said, nothing on a shoe is 90 degrees. You would think, well, you just bend it straight across. Well, you don't. One side of this is longer than the other. This is the long side, this is the shorter side. And it's kind of at an angle cross to the short side, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get me a straight edge, and we're going to lay something up here and kind of try to mimic this angle. Alright, so we've got our little gizmo. We're going to put them down here at the front. And I'm going to call that pretty close to what we've got. I can to let you see this, but it's kind of big and in the way more than anything. Unfortunately, I have to stand right in the front. What I've got is my tool in here, and I've got my pipe set up in my jig that I made in one of the other videos, the bottom tool video. And this is a top tool that I made in that top tool videos. And I've got extra marks on this, but I'm gonna bend it and see what it looks like. If I need more bend, I'll use some of these other marks. I have two here that I think I'm gonna use initially. I have a deep-throated fly press, so it's almost in the center of this. My little tool is not very long though, so I don't know what's going to happen out here. I don't know if it's just, but we have pipes under it that are plenty long. So we're going to give her a shot and see what's going to happen, I reckon. Alright, that's bent all the way across. That's the idea. Alright. I'm going to slide it down this way. Slide it down to this way. Try to keep it as straight as I can. I'm wanting a nice even bend as best I can. So I'm going to stop there for the moment on that line. And I'm going to even go over to this line, I think, because I got room. I want this as tall as I can get it, so I'm trying to kind of coax my bend down this way. Let's do that. Get as straight as we can. Like that. Hard to judge straight on this thing. That's getting her bent some. It's looking good. But the idea with this shoe is it not actually sit down totally flat, which is what you would think a shoe would do. When we have the shoe for a model, the toe of it doesn't actually sit down flat. It lifts up maybe, in our case, maybe 2 inches. And so I think that's going to do us pretty good. Now we're going to curve this part back the other way very slightly. The last half of it is more or less straight, but we're going to put a S curve in this thing. So it curves like this and then back over. So we're going to set up to do that. But that works pretty good. Alright, we've got our shoe with our bend down now because we're bending the other direction. Just want to make sure that our stuff hasn't moved over here. We got our marks so we can see where we're at. just kind of get parallel a little bit. We're not going to push this much. We're just going to do a little. I'm looking at this thing from the side, and I'm wanting to have an arch in it is what it needs. And it's almost got what I want. It'd been nice to have one more bend on that thing. And I think this bend might be slightly too much. So what we're going to do is flip it over and mash down on that one a minute. Taking much out of it, just a little tiny bit, but that's starting to look like something there. I think I need to bend this up here a couple more times, like maybe 2 more lines. I didn't get the last 2 lines, and I think I need those to make it do right. Alright, show you where we're at on our big high heel shoe. I've decided to put a framework underneath the skin of the shoe, the steel of the shoe. The steel itself will probably hold together fine. It's only 1/8 of an inch though, so if somebody was to climb up on top of this, they might be able to bend it down. So I put in these rods. They are 5/8 of an inch, and I've welded them in here. I haven't welded them permanent yet, but I've tacked them on there pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of the framework. I've got to put a piece up that way and across the back. I don't have too many more pieces to make of it. This was the most of it here. And then we're going to take some cardboard and we're going to make our patterns that will actually cut out to pieces. Framework coming along. We've been taking some time. This takes a lot of piddling time, a lot of time to cut a piece and bend it, try it, bend it, try it, bend it, try it, and weld it on and grind off the welds and get it to look just so. But I think it's coming along. We've got our top here. It needs to lean back a little bit, but I went ahead and welded it on. I'll heat this corner up with the torch and lean it back once I get this final piece. I have this final piece up there, and it'll actually make an S curve back, and these will kind of go back. It won't quite be an S curve, but it'll go back towards it. And then there'll be a strap, or what I'm going to call a strap out here with a buckle on it. That's going to be the tallest part. And we're trying to make this pretty robust so that we don't get it torn up. But I'm afraid when I put that strap on it, I don't care what I did here in the back, I'm afraid they're going to be able to bend it. But we'll see what we can do to prevent that. Alright, that's what it looks like from the side. Like I said, the very top portion there will lean back just probably another, well, almost 90 up in the air, I guess. And but it's hard to get y'all to get all this in the camera because my shop's not that big, and this is a big item. All right. this is a leaf spring, and I have cut off. When you get these, usually there's a bearing here that allows it to operate, but I've cut that part off. This is rounded just like it was. This part up here I forged out and made it into the tongue of this part is the top, like the part of the shoe that would go around the woman's ankle. And so my trouble is, we got to figure out where to bend this so that this round part, my goal is this round part matches into this round part. That was what my plan is. So we're gonna try to do that with this wire. And I've bent this little wire. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I've bent this little wire to kind of match this, not perfectly, but kind of match that. And I'm gonna use this corner to basically match where this bend is down here. And then we're going to bend this like I would want it to be, and we'll see if it's anywhere close enough to do what we want to do. So I want this thing to match up into here, about like that. And I guess I need to know how long I am before I start bending too much. I'll put me a mark on this thing. And this is a lot of what I do is fiddly and fiddly and fiddly. Anybody can bend this end because it didn't have to match anything. This end's gonna have to match. And I can't heat up but so much of this at a time, so that's your trouble. Anyhow, so we're gonna put this at the end. And I'm gonna mark here somewhere like that. And I'm gonna mark my wire. Something like that. Mark this wire. And then I'm gonna bend this the way I would want it to be, and then we'll see what we got. That's the marker, and it's not quite there yet. When you're matching up something else, you gotta have some method of doing that. Gotta put a kink in this wire, it's in my way. Now, something like that would probably do. Something like that would probably do. And so, straighten out here. Something in that range, I think. And this will have to be a little tighter than this one out here, so this will be the back side of the shoe, as far as I can tell right now. We'll get it bent and see which one looks the best. I would like this to come towards the back of the shoe, in that that's the way the real shoe is. But we'll have to wait and see what it really looks like. But that's the kind of deal I need to be working on. So what I'm trying to figure out is where to start my bend. How much straight material should I leave? So I'm going to say right there. And I'm going to say from there. Mark, here's my mark. From there to the center of my bend. If I can get this to roll. Now this is bent the other way, it's bothering me. Alright, so we'll line our marks back up. And we'll roll this wire, he says. Line the marks back up. Roll the wire until it's the center. So I can mark the center of the bend, and then roll back to where it's flat. We can kind of mark where we bend will stop. So somewhere in those marks here. So somewhere in here, that's where we need to be bending. So that's where we need to get hot. Alright. Alright, we've got our piece placed in here with our marks. My forge has 3 burners, and so it allows me to heat up a fairly large spot, which is just about all that this will take. I've left the door open. I can close it, it heats faster, but if I close it, then if I don't get it all in one lick, I can't come back and really heat it. So with the door open, I can put it in on sideways. So we'll heat this up and see what we get. Here we've got our sculpture going. We've made our sole of our shoe, and then we've come up with these 5/8 round bar skeleton framework, and then we've been working on getting our pieces developed for our to coat our skeleton with and bending these complex curves here. I've been doing most of this cold, and I'll go back through with a hammer and dolly and knock out some of these dents, but it's coming along pretty good. I welded this piece on yesterday, and it really solided up the sculpture. I mean, it's really sturdy now. It was sturdy before, but this sole is only 1/8 of an inch, so it had some flexing to it. But when I welded this 3 sides. And I'm going to weld over here the 4th side, which is this. Something like that. And I'll weld it along here. And that way it'll have all 4 sides welded. And of course we'll weld it to the bottom and the top here. But I think it's looking pretty good. Got some grinding to do. I've got the pieces for the front side here, and I've got the piece opposite of this cut out but not bent yet, and so I have to work on the back and that one piece so far. But we're coming along pretty good with this, and we'll have some finish, knocking out some dent kind of deal. But the reason I chose to do it cold instead of heating it up is I'm trying to save myself some grinding. My elbows and my wrists and everything going crazy grinding, so I'm trying to save myself some grinding. So I've been using the pads, the not woven something or another. They're like little pads that you go on your grinder that'll take off the paint and the forge scale. Well, my metal is new, so it doesn't have paint on it, but it's got forge scale on it. And so I do that while the metal's still flat, and then I'll cut out the pieces, and then I'll bend them to shape using my fly press. And so I'll take you along on the next one of these. Since I've done one, hopefully I'll be able to do it again. And this is curved inward this way, curved this way, and curved outward this way. So it's lots going on that piece of metal, and it's not as easy to get all of that at one time. And what I've had to do is I actually cut this piece of metal at an angle here, because I just could not get all the angles to go, all the curves to go at one time. It just wasn't going to happen, at least not cold. So I'm going to go ahead and grind this up and get this cleaned up, and we'll start on our next piece. Alright, what I've done is I've just held this up against my piece over there and drew lines where it's the farthest away. Now, I did that on the inside. I have to do it on the outside because I'm going to be pushing down with my fly press here. So I'm just using the black marks, the marker marks, as a guide for marking this other side. So, as in most curves, it doesn't curve at the very edge as much as in the middle. So I'm gonna draw some knot lines on this so I know not to do that. Knot lines. And so that's what I have to go by, just a few marks. And this is a big swooping curve, so I have spread out my little pieces here. At least initially I'll get a big sweeping curve going, and then we'll check it and see what it looks like. And if you're interested in this fly press, I actually have one of these for sale. Not this one, but a little bit smaller one. And I made all these tools, and there's a video about that, so check that out. Alright, I'm going to just start on one end, and I'm not pressing all the way across my piece of metal. I'm not trying to press it because it bends the other way at the top, and so we're just trying to kind of coax this bottom in, and the closer you put your piece to the last bend, the tighter your bend will be. And so after the first pass, we have that. It's slightly curved. This method does put a few dents in your metal here where this end is, and I guess you could round that a little bit more if you wanted to. I'm going to come out a little bit farther. I'm moving my piece farther this way because I want the steepest part of the curve closer to the bottom, and this piece is going to actually curve back. So we're going to go through and give it another twist here. Alright, number 2 pass. Still see a few divots. See, this thing pushes down straight, so even if that's curved, it's still going to leave a little bit of something. But that's where we're at now. Got that much curve in it. Fairly smooth curve. Got one little car bumper there. But we're going to set it against our side and see what we're looking like. Alright, this was our second pass. I didn't try it after the first one. I knew it wasn't quite there the first go round, but I always said I'd rather be lucky than good. That's looking pretty good. We got just a little bit of an 1/8 of an inch gap here, and I think that'll do fine. Now the next trick is we got to start making some of this turn back over this way. These pieces got to turn over. So I'm gonna draw a line where I think that needs to start. Like that. Over here too. And this time we do need it on the inside to push down. Whereas I told you the last time we didn't want these marks here. But we got her going. So we got our piece up again. My curve at the bottom looks pretty good still, and that it's matching fairly well within clamping distance, 1/4 of an inch or so. This has started to pull up. It's matching the curve here, so we got a mark down here. We need to move this down slightly and make this a steeper curve in. So hold it, act like I want it here. And we gotta come down here, son. And you're gonna get to a point on this that it's not gonna want to twist. And when you flatten one piece or bend one piece, it'll flatten the other. So we're gonna work it up as much as we can, and then we'll get it so we can clamp it in place. And we may even heat it with the torch in the freer spots to get it to go just right. Alright, I haven't hammered on it yet, but I was just going to test fit it and see where we're at. If it were perfect, I wouldn't hammer on it, I'd just let it go. But we're getting closer. As you can see back here, I hope y'all can see that. I can stick my fingers between it, but when we first started out, man, it was 4 inches off. This at the bottom is looking pretty good. This at the top, we need to put us a mark on here to bend this a little bit more. And in fact, we're going to bend it more all the way across here. Like that. And what I'm doing here is I'm marking where it's touching, and I'm going to come just above that and try to bend it over. And I'm going to try to fold this edge over as best I can. Carrying this camera around is starting to kill me, so I'm going to turn y'all off for a minute and I'll bring you back when we get this a little closer. come here, it's pretty tight to the curve. It ain't perfect yet, but pretty tight. And we're going to have to cut this down some. I made it bigger on purpose so we can have room to cut it down. We're going to have to cut this down to make it fit perfectly, because once you get all this extra metal in here, it makes it harder to bend that. But this is looking pretty good on this end. And this end is out, but if we switch it and just let this end come out, we're pretty good on that end. So what we need to do is twist this thing. And I'm going to twist it using the little the fly press. And so we'll try to show you what I'm trying to do with that. And I need to twist it. Figure what I need to do here. We'll try twisting it along this line here. See. All right, we'll see what we got now. It's looking pretty close up here at the top. We've got a little gap in here that we don't need, but we could flatten that easy enough. Same on this side, a little bit that we don't need. Down at the bottom, I'm stick my finger down between it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start and trim this thing off. Start getting it more to the shape, the actual size it needs to be, since I got my bends mostly in it. And it shouldn't shrink much more. I'm going to start taking away some of these extra pieces of material so I can actually bend what's necessary to bend. So I'll draw some lines with that and take it to the plasma cutter and cut this out. Section, this was the one we were showing you bending. Applied and ground it down. Basically I welded all the way along here, along the bottom. I did not weld this part yet because there's a piece that comes in here and overlaps this, and we'll just weld along its seam, and we won't worry about welding it directly to the frame on this particular part. At least not at this point. But the next step is we're going to show you how to make the templates, so it's kind of going in reverse order. We make the paper template first, and then we cut out the piece of metal, a little larger. And I say we, it's just me. But basically I just hold the paper up here tight like this, and just draw along the top of it, and along the outside. And on this side, we're actually going to follow the top here. And put a curve in it. We'll start with that curve and see what that looks like. I need to move it over a smidge. Something like that. We'll start with that, see if we gotta adjust it. I'll put a line here. I won't cut this line, but that's a reference line to where that beam is there, where our support is. Alright, so here's our paper. I'm just going to cut this out. Find my scissors in here. Alright, there's my original drawing of my plan. And we're looking at this line right in here, and that's what I'm trying to draw on the shoe on the paper there. And my issue is I've got steel up to here where my pole was. There's nothing in here at the moment, and I need this to lap over like this is lapping over here. Maybe y'all can see that part in this, but this will lap over, and I'll weld the seam, of course, but I won't grind it off. I won't try to blend it. I'll try to make it stand out, just be smooth, a smooth, even line. Same here, overlapping this. It does a couple things. It gives us a little interest, breaks up your outline a little bit, and it strengthens your overall piece in that you're welding double thickness on certain spots. So that's my thinking right now. I think that's looking pretty good. I've got metal up to here, so I've got pretty much half or better would be welded, and I'll have to fill in a little triangle piece, but we'll take care of that, I think. Alright, I've used my paper pattern here to draw a facsimile of it onto my metal, and I've left it, 3/4 of an inch bigger all the way around. And that gives me space to take up any kind of errors or my hand may shake or something. You don't want to cut this out too tight. And we're going to be bending this some, so we need some room for that too. That takes up some material. But this piece doesn't have too much curve in it, so it shouldn't take too much of that. But we've left ourselves a good 3/4 of an inch all the way around. So that should be perfectly fine. And now we're going to take up our paper, get it out of the way. And I'm using the plasma cutter for this. And I'll tell you guys the truth. I cut with a torch for years. A plasma cutter is well worth the money. I bought a very nice one, and it is not causing me any trouble, knock on wood, and it is like using a lightsaber off of Star Wars. I mean, it's just, and I'm going to show you all that right now. Fast, right up the curve there. Just that fast. And I know I'm probably right in y'all's light, but it's best I can do what I got. I can get it to bite on this. Alright. Alright. But you do need to wear your shades for this deal. Don't skimp on those. And I find that if I'm cutting an arc, I want to be on the where the center would be of that arc. Makes it much smoother. Even though I'm gonna cut this again, I want it to be fairly smooth. I'm gonna try to use one side or the other as a reference point. This side's a little raggedy because I used where it was already cut. Well worth the money. If you got the money to put in it, buy your plasma sucker. You will not be disappointed. And I have, for if y'all curious, I have a, what is this thing called? Power Max 45 XP by Hypotherm. That's what I've got. And it's one of the nice ones. And the metal really isn't even hot. You can put your hand right on it. Not even really hot. I'm going to clean that edge up just a little bit. You need a good air compressor if you're going to run one of those. One with a lot of volume, because it does use up very much air. But it doesn't leave much dross. I like it that I can touch the metal with the torch, propane torch, or oxy-fuel, but either propane or acetylene. If you touch your puddle, of course, it blocks the tip up, you're stuck there another 20 minutes cleaning the tip. This ain't meant to touch, it's got a drag tip that it's meant to touch, so I like that. Alright, I've just taken the last few minutes and went over this plate. Actually, both of these little plates. Here's the little triangle that cut out too. With my, this is a non-woven disc. It's these are blue. I like the purple ones better. I think the colors are the grits. I think the purple is the roughest grit. There's a blue, the black, and a purple. But these were cheap enough, I guess, and it works okay. Now you see it on my grinder without a guard. I don't recommend this for anybody to run a grinder without a guard. But this particular thing, if you leave the guard on there, but the guard I have is fairly thick, and it causes you to tilt this down, and you don't get hardly any wear out of it. So I don't suggest y'all use it like I do, but I'm showing you this for entertainment purposes. But I'll show you what I do. And what we're doing with this is we're changing the piece of metal from looking like this, which has forged scale all over it, to something that looks like this, which doesn't have the forged scale all over it. And this is the fastest way I've found to do it. It doesn't clog up, or it doesn't clog up as much as a flap disc. The flap disc will do it, but it takes you a lot longer. And the flap disc, you turn it over and stop it, turn it over and look at it. It's like glass looking on the surface. And the idea of these is that the debris goes up in these big holes, and you don't get that. And every once in a while, I'll take it over to the edge and run it on the edge just very lightly, and that cuts off the top layer, because this thing does not like edges. start this in the middle, do all the middle, leave about 2 inches around the outside, and do that last because your disc will go away quickly. So I do like those. A little update. We've added a little triangle piece in here and ground it off smooth to add on to this piece, and then we've made this piece, bent it, cut it out, bent it, played with it a long time to get it just so, and then we welded that on. But my line that I want to flow, just like in my drawing, is from up here down and around this way. And so we've got another piece like this on the other side we've got to finish. We've got this little triangle done. But then the next piece will be here covering this heel up. And then one of the final pieces, it'll be 2 pieces up here that make up this part that holds our strap. I don't know what else to call it, a little bracelet thing for your ankle. And it'll actually flow down and onto these 2 pieces, or 4 pieces on the back, and weld to that. We're trying to make that as strong as I can, since it's a heavy piece and it'll have a lot of leverage for somebody to pull on if they just so desire. But we're going to try to make it where they can't break it, or can't tear it up at least, beyond fixing. But it's coming along pretty good. We've got some more grinding to do. My least favorite part, grinding. I can't hardly stand it. I've got a little bit more grinding to do on this. I feel a little rough spot right there now. But this is more or less the shape I was after. Looking pretty good. Looks like a shoe anyway. And this grind will not flow in smooth like I did here. This one will be, we'll leave it out proud, and I try to put as pretty a weld on it as I can. And so what I intend to do is run the wire brush over it and then just try to knock off the big bumps and leave that weld as part of the design. We'll see what that looks like. I'm not the world's greatest welder, particularly on little teeny stuff like this. But I think it turned out pretty good. We'll see what it looks like when I get it cleaned up tomorrow. But we're working on her. We have been working pretty hard on our shoe. We've got our top up here attached. These pieces here were the hardest pieces to put on. It took me over a day each on these. These other pieces weren't too bad. They're pretty long, and I was able to reach across, even if I had to put a bit of weld on this so the clamp would hold. I had something else to pull to. These things, there was nothing here to pull to, nothing this direction. So I ended up having to weld a piece of angle iron on the bottom here, so I had something to squeeze it to. But then all that takes time. You got to weld it on, you got to cut it off, you got to grind it smooth. But we finally got it on here. We have added this portion here because these 2 pieces came down, and then there was a gap in here, and there was no way I could make it do what I wanted it to do. So I just added this piece on, made it a decorative item to cover up the little gap that was there. We still have some finished grinding to do on it, but it's working out pretty good. And today I have used some of this weld-through primer, and I put it on the inside because I'm not going to see this anymore. You know, I'm about to put these pieces on here, and so this fits like that. And then that way I have some primer between here, so this hopefully doesn't rust in here and cause us paint issues. My goal is to keep it from deteriorating the paint. But we're going to weld these couple pieces on, and we'll be on our way to having this fixed. I have not finished the heel yet. I've got a couple of pieces for that, and I have not fitted the strap that would go around the woman's ankle. I have the strap made, but I haven't quite fitted to that yet, so that we've still got a few more things to do on this, but not too many. I have the base made here. It doesn't have the little feet on it just yet, but coming, and so we're well on our way to getting this fixed. The name of this one is Stiletto, but we've got basically our shoe part pretty much done. We've got a few more little spots to weld and fill in a few little gaps and so forth, but pretty much done and finished, nearly ready for paint, some clean up and touch up. Our latest addition has been this heel, and we're going to bring in some sloping pieces here to make it look more like a high heel shoe, and we're also going to add a bigger piece of pipe here at the bottom, and we're going to bolt it down through this base plate. We've also added a pretty thick piece of steel underneath right here where it touches the base plate, and drill holes through it so that we can bolt it to the base plate. My goal is to have this so it's removable for in the future if we want to repaint it or what have you. We can take it off and do that without any issues. Painting on something like this is an issue in that you can't get your brush up underneath here. You could paint the shoe fine, but the base here would be almost impossible to try to paint underneath this item. And so I'll try to make my artwork so that it's removable if at all possible, so it facilitates easy restoration or future painting. Helps with the painting initially too. But we've got it looking pretty good. This rope here and these clamps are up there to had it tied to the ceiling so I could raise it up and down and check where I wanted this, how high the heel was. I spent almost a whole day playing with this, getting that angle just right, figuring out where I wanted the heel this direction and the shoe up and down. So it took us some time to do that. But now that we have that down, we're going to put some braces on this. We're going to fix our bottom here with our bolt so that we can bolt it down, and should not be any issues at all with that. But we'll bring you back when we get a little bit more done. We have applied our primer. I chose a primer that had a filler in it, like an auto body type filler in it, to get out some of the little dings and dents. I'll probably do a separate review about that. Not exactly terrific. It was okay, I guess. It got out some of the dings and dents, but it didn't fill in. It's called filler. I thought it would fill in little tiny holes in my weld and that kind of thing, and I guess if you put enough on there it would, but this represents 5 cans at $10 a can. I think it's about what I paid for it. And then in between each can, each coat, you have to sand it, which is okay, but I would have preferred it to have been smooth. I guess I'm asking a whole lot. But we've got this primed. We've painted the inside of it and the bottom of it. It's finished color, and now we've masked it off, and we're going to paint the outside color. And so we're going to give that a whirl. But been working on this primer for about 3 days, trying to get it to work and fill in the holes and so forth. But I guess you're going to get what you get and don't get upset, because it did not fill in all the little holes which I expected it to. And I guess I could have used Bondo. I actually bought Bondo, but I didn't want to mix them, so it didn't say whether you could or not. So I stuck with what I started with. And it smoothed it out some, and I guess it looks okay, but we'll see when we put our finished coat on there. Got a little bit of a close-up view of our inside. That's the khaki color, and if we go up here with it, we can get to the top. Alright, got you a little close up on the buckle. I had initially made that just smooth and round out of round bar, and my wife looked at it. She said that looks like a man's buckle, needs some bling on it. So I went back and added the little dots with just the welder, put little dots on there, little tack wells and cleaned them up, and I think it looks pretty good. That's supposed to be like, you know, kind of bejeweled or whatever. My wife was happy with it, said it didn't look like a man's buckle anymore, so we're good to go. Base, this is 3/8 of an inch steel, and it was left outside my shop for probably 2 years, a year and a half anyway. I didn't have any place to store it. It was a huge piece of metal, and I didn't have any way good to cut it at that point. That was before I bought my plasma cutter. And so I just laid it outside, propped it up, and of course it rusted. I knew it would, but I knew I could get the rust off. Well, in the process of me taking the rust off, the rust had left a pattern into the steel. I got all the rust off, but it still left this kind of crackled pattern in it. And I thought that was cool looking. I thought it looked like marble. And so to give the shoe a little boost, we've put a stripe of different color marble, a faux marble painting here, across, and this will be actually underneath the heel of the shoe. The heel of the shoe goes in this hole here. These are hold down holes where it holds down. But the heel of the shoe will go here. The toe of the shoe will be out here, so you'll see a little black on this side, a little black on that side, and then this will be running under the shoe. I think it turned out well, and this is what I was trying to use that clear on to give it a uniform gloss sheen and be UV protected. And that didn't work out, so we didn't do the clear on it. But it is shiny enough. I think it'll be fine. Yeah. As one of the students used to say, that was in the, I think he was in the boys' home, or I forget what he was in. He might have been in foster care. He says, "You get what you get, you don't get upset." And so that's what we got on this. And I had to do this all yesterday, wanting to deliver this. This is Sunday. I was wanting to deliver this Tuesday, and I have help on Sunday sometimes to help move these things because these are getting heavy. This is about all I want to pick up. I'd say this is 100 pounds plus. The shoe is that much as well, so once we get these together, it'll be, you know, over 200 pounds, I'm sure. And I can drag them around and roll them around, flip them around when they're not painted, but once I get them painted, I gotta handle them more gently. So we're gonna put this together. I'll take some pictures of it together.